Museum is officially closed. Maybe that's a good thing, because it cost taxpayers a whopping $4 million to build and hundreds of thousands each year to operate. And despite that, barely anyone visited. Griff Jenkins is live inside that museum, now defunct, with more. Griff.
And Emily, you are correct. The Museum of EPA History is itself history after Administrator Lee Zeldin shuttered its doors on Monday. One of the first things you see is the reason why he did it, because he saw it as partisan. The first thing you come to is a giant ode to environmental justice warriors, but he also did it, Emily, for cost-cutting, waste, fraud, and abuse reasons, because this entire museum is just this room, 1,600 square feet, created last year for $4 million, costing over $600,000 annually to operate, and yet less than 2,000 have actually even visited it. And aside from the justice warriors, there's also a heavy emphasis on climate change, greenhouse gases, and the sort of reasons that should be a priority. And we talked to Zeldin about exactly how this all comes together, about the closure. Here's what he said.
You walk around this room and there's a whole lot about climate change and environmental justice. Here's the problem. In the name of climate change, in the name of environmental justice, the Biden administration was spending tens of billions of dollars through their friends. Self-dealing, conflicts of interest, unqualified recipients.
And this stood out, Emily, in the Environmental Justice Champions timeline of key events. You see it goes from the 90s up to 2014, and it stops and picks up again on January 20th in 2021 with Biden in the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. Zeldin says that's just outrageous. The entire Trump years were left out. But we did make some news, and that was when I asked him about Judge Tanya Chutkan yesterday, who's hammering the EPA and Lee Zeldin for trying to claw back $20 billion of environmental funds given out in grants under the Biden administration. And here's what he had to say about that judge.
I don't even believe that the judge has jurisdiction over this case. It's a contracts case. The idea that all of these different district court judges all across the entire country are going to somehow take control of the federal government and control the government from the judicial branch is not what the American public voted for.
There were a couple of cool things to see. This environmental hazmat suit's kind of cool. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it afterwards. Maybe I can bring it to you on the couch tomorrow for Outnumbered. But one thing that we did learn from Lee Zeldin is that he is heading soon out to San Diego to see firsthand a story you know, Emily, the Tijuana River and the sewage that's been leaking there. He says he wants to get busy doing the EPA's job, helping communities have clean air and water. Emily?
But it looks like he'll need that suit for that trip. Griff Jenkins, thank you so much. All right, Kaylee, so they wiped out an entire term out of spite, and we're expected to fund that and keep it open for the 1,200 visitors a year?
Yeah, okay, so the size of an apartment, 1,600 square feet. How many millions can you cram into 1,600 square feet? I guess 4 million is the answer to that. Not only that, when you look at the number of visitors, the Smithsonian, even on its worst day, gets 8 times more visitors than this apartment-sized building. And 40% of the visitors were staffers, family members. So, hey, Mom, let's go see my museum at the EPA for $4 million. But to your point, the key part is leaving out the entire Trump administration. They were the first ever administration to address precursors and pollutants together. The first administration in 30 years to come up with new lead and copper rules, but we can't put any of this into the museum. No, we wipe away President Trump. This is Democrat propaganda. You've got finite resources, and they're just shoving it to promote the left. It's crazy.
And the irony, Doctor, of an entire museum dedicated to environmental justice and climate change, climate warriors, but I'm pretty sure the footprint wasn't 0% in building it.
Well, they say if you build it, they will come. Well, $4 million later, they built it and no one came. So it makes sense to close this building. It has an annual, as Griff just said, it has an annual cost of about $600,000 just to keep it open. Why, for this apartment-sized little museum, does it cost that much? I don't know. But the reality is, this is not a declaration against the EPA. The EPA is doing great things. The way that they cleaned up the wildfires in California, amazing. Yes. But let's take that $600,000 annually on this little apartment-sized thing that no one goes to and give it to somewhere to actually help clean air.
Yeah, because that's the point. It's a testament here as to the hubris of a prior administration and the just flagrant spending of others' money on things that don't benefit Americans, and certainly that have a slanted political view.
Look, I know we did a story yesterday on how much money some liberals are making off, Wall Street and stocks and stuff like that. But this is indicative of somebody who's never actually run a country or a company. With all of our money we've given them, and this is how they apportion it on something that probably only EPA family members might want to see. It was very specific. So it's good that it's gone. Lee Zeldin is doing what he's been asked to do. All hands on deck for Trump and Doge.
Look, simple solution. All of this can be put into a conference room at EPA headquarters or somewhere. That's what happens.
That is a conference room.
Right. An expensive conference room. Let's use one that already exists. Put up the history and include everybody.
Great point.
See, I solved it.